Mitch McConnell thanks MAGA supporters for their vote as he gets ready to impeach and convict the MAGA-in-chief. So we'll talk a bit about that. Plus, Nancy Pelosi has named the impeachment managers, and she's getting some blowback for that as well. In other news, we will pick up the Deutsche Bank story that did not load for me yesterday because Bloomberg is a money-hungry bastard. Derek Chauvin will be getting a separate trial from everybody else who was involved in the killing of St. George. And, as a special bonus, at 1.5 times speed for time, Vanessa Bourbon put out a video that I thought that you guys should hear, so we will be premiering it. But it'll be a little bit quicker in order to take up time. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today. This news cycle is loaded up. They're trying to jack as much of it in there and get as many rage clicks as possible before the end of The Federal Apprentice, or at least until we go into the new season with a new leading character. So strap yourselves in. We have until next Wednesday for Trump to be in office. And then we don't know what's going to happen, if it's just going to go back to dog sock stories or if some of the alt media is actually going to hold these people to account. We will see what happens. I will be one of the people that is making an attempt to hold the new administration to account. But, I wasn't MAGA enough for the MAGA people either, so they'll get pissed too. But before we get into any of this, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. I don't know why YouTube is not loading up video previews anymore, but we carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, Contemporary, The Freckles and Brit Show, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Breakdown with Birkenhoff. Head on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Let's have a look at what the markets are doing today, starting with the Dow. The Dow went down and went below yesterday's previous close. It went down, it went back up, went back down. We came out just about a little bit even, 60 points ahead as all this went through. Nobody knows what's going on, and it looks like the futures are getting ready to take us back down, at least according to what IBD and CNBC have to say about that. Looking at the Bitcoin is settling back into its 34,000 US dollar range again. Pretty flat throughout the day, so we will see what happens with that coming up in the next few days. Once again, if they're going to continue to print money, we're going to see what happens there. I know the R-Rated Conservative was talking about $7 a gallon milk at some point. Fuel costs are going to go up, so we will see what happens with that as well. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch, but if you're curious about Bitcoin, now might not be the time just because it's so inflated right now, but it could spike once again. So talk to your investor, look at your finances, and decide what it is that is going to be the best for you. All right, let's have a look over here at Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones Futures, Trump impeachment vote nears. Target reports strong holiday sales. GM Uber lead new breakouts from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures turned modestly lower early Wednesday, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures as the House nears a Trump impeachment vote. Target reported strong holiday sales. The major indices had a quiet session Tuesday, but small caps, financials, and growth names fared well, with IPOs soaring and several new stock breakouts, including Uber and GM stock. Tesla rebounded Tuesday after snapping an 11-day winning streak on Monday, but Tesla stock is still showing signs of being near a climax top. Fuel cell stocks, Plug Power, Ballard Power, Fuel Cell Energy, which all kept rising sharply Wednesday morning, are also going vertical. GM, Ford, Uber all cleared buy points on Tuesday, so did housewares and furnishings retailer Williams-Sonoma. There's a name we haven't been hearing in this a lot. Williams and Sonoma. I guess people are going back out and buying desks and couches and decorative throw pillows. Meanwhile, many recent IPOs were big winners, including DoorDash, Airbnb, and Corsair Gaming, all flashing various buy signals. Fubo TV and China EV startups Xpeng and Li Auto rebounded powerfully from their 50-day lines. Tech titans continue to struggle. Apple edged lower, trying to hold support levels. In its handle, Microsoft and Google parent Alphabet closed below key levels. Facebook and Netflix have broken below their 50-day lines and are moving towards their 200-day averages. Amazon didn't fall but continues to lag. But those mega cap woes are keeping the stock market rally from overheating as many leading stocks get red hot. Target reported November-December same-store sales rose 17.3% versus a year earlier. Digital comparables sales skyrocketed 102%, while in-store comps grew 4.2%. However, the prior third quarter, Target reported digital comps up 156% and in-store sales 9.9%. It's because I advertise for them. I'm convinced that's what it is. Because I go ahead and tell people, don't go to Walmart, go to Target instead. They probably don't have the same political values as you or the same social values as you, but they don't get on their soapbox and tell you about it. I can say probably about Target. I can't say that about Walmart anymore. So, it's because I'm advertising for them. I'm just kidding. All right. On the futures, Dow futures fell 0.2% versus fair value, S&P futures sank 0.3%, and NASDAQ 100 futures retreated 0.3%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, so that's something to keep in mind on here. Let's keep going to CNBC. Stock futures fall as Wall Street struggles for a direction from Fred Imbert and Pippa Stevens. U.S. stock index futures fell slightly Wednesday as the market struggled for a direction for a second day amid rising rates, political uncertainty, and a still raging pandemic. Futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average traded 70 points lower, or 0.2%. S&P 500 futures dipped 0.3%, and NASDAQ 100 futures slipped 0.2%. Stocks rose in the first week of 2021, but have since stalled out. The market closed a little changed on Tuesday. The Dow Jones Industrial rose 60 points, or 0.2%, to 31,068.69. The NASDAQ Composite ended the day up 0.3%, and S&P 500 rose slightly to 38,0119. Meanwhile, the yield on the benchmark 10-year Treasury briefly traded at 1.18%, its highest level since March. Given the rise in rates, Credit Suisse recommended that investors favor pro-cyclical sectors, including financials and energy. Rising rates could hurt growth stock, however, and a number of tech heavyweights, including Facebook and Apple, declined during Tuesday's session. Investors will be watching the December CPI report released on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. for any clues about rising inflation that could drive rates even higher. Well, if they're just going to keep printing money, you're going to see rising inflation. So, we will see what happens off of that. I'm pretty sure that it's just going to be enter, 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 until your money is worthless. And as I mentioned yesterday, Amp Energy, Monster Energy, are both up 30 cents a can in most places. And that Culver's meal that I got the other day, that was normally $11, was $17. Keep that in mind as we go along. Let's look into the news, starting with the big news of the week. Trump says 25th Amendment poses zero risk to him. President Trump said Tuesday he believes the 25th Amendment poses zero risk to him, but suggested it could be applied to President-elect Joe Biden, with the president shrugging off the possibility of being removed from office after he incited supporters to storm the Capitol last week. Yeah, that's something we've been talking about since they first started talking about the 25th Amendment. And Nancy Pelosi putting out that big, scary resolution to try and make it into a place where the Speaker of the House could get involved and intervene in this as well. Not necessarily what's going to happen to Trump. I mean, his term was over. Essentially, even at the beginning of the year, his term was effectively over, and yet he was still able to squeak a whole bunch of things through with a lame duck session, because the House was blocking him every which way. He was still able to squeak a whole bunch of things through, but, if they're going to use it against him, then they're going to turn around and use it against, come on, man, come on. I got hairy legs. And it possibly would be. And I know people are trying to argue that this is still... Oh, I thought I shut that up. Never mind. A lot of people are still trying to argue that this is just a speech impediment that he has, instead of the fact that he is in cognitive decline. And to that, I have to say, you know what? I've seen the light, and you people are right. Anybody who says that Joe Biden is in cognitive decline is nothing but a one-horse pony. They're simply lying, dog-faced pony soldiers. Excuse me. Come on, man. I'll challenge them to a push-up contest right now. I bet you I can do more push-ups than they can. That was the summer that I learned about roaches. Free speech is under assault like never before. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me. Because he has 7 days left in office. But we'll come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for, okay? Trump said at the start of the prepared remarks near the southern border at Alamo, Texas. The impeachment hoax is a continuation of the greatest and most vicious witch hunt in the history of our country, and is causing tremendous anger and division and pain, far greater than most people would ever understand, which is very, very dangerous for the USA. It's the worst, okay? Guys, it is the absolute worst, especially at this very, very tender time. The president later added that it is the time for the nation to heal, and denounced attacks on law enforcement during the speech, which was mostly used to tout his efforts to crack down on immigration and construct a wall at the southern border during his time in office. But Trump's scripted remarks reflect how little he has acknowledged his own role in last week's violence at the Capitol. Yeah, that's enough of that. Because they're just going to go into beating themselves off over the fact that, oh my God, I get to tell people that Trump was evil on the Capitol. I'm so happy I get to tell people about that. And that's all this devolves into. But, I mean, once again, once they started talking 25th Amendment, and once it became apparent that Biden was going to either be the winner himself or pose at least a significant risk, because we knew that there were going to be some shenanigans that went along with this election that was completely above board and nothing bad happened, wink wink honk honk, that this could be used against Biden as well. This could be a benchmark and a precedent that they could take forward. So I think he's right. And I mean, broken clock. Although he's been right more than twice a day. So we'll take that as it goes. It's definitely going to be a soap opera come the next administration. Let's keep going. From the New York Times, a former newspaper, McConnell is said to be pleased about impeachment, believing it will be easier to purge Trump for the... From the GOP, if I could talk. From Jonathan Martin and Maggie Haberman. Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the Republican leader, has told associates that he believes President Trump committed impeachable offenses and that he is pleased that Democrats are moving to impeach him, believing it will make it easier to purge him from the party, according to people familiar with his thinking. The House is voting on Wednesday to formally charge Mr. Trump with inciting violence against the country. At the same time, Representative McCarthy of California, the minority leader and one of Trump's most steadfast allies in Congress, has asked other Republicans whether he should call on Mr. Trump to resign in the aftermath of the riot at the Capitol last week, according to 3 Republican officials briefed on the conversations. While Mr. McCarthy has said he is personally opposed to impeachment, he and other party leaders have decided not to formally lobby Republicans to vote no, and an aide to Mr. McCarthy said he was open to a measure censuring Mr. Trump for his conduct. In private, McCarthy reached out to a leading House Democrat to see if the chamber would be willing to pursue a censure vote, though Speaker Pelosi has ruled it out. Taken together, the stances of Congress's 2 top Republicans, neither of whom have said publicly that Mr. Trump should resign or be impeached, reflected the politically challenging and fast-moving nature of the crisis that the party faces after the assault by a pro-Trump mob during a secession to formalize President-elect Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s electoral victory. As more violent images from the mayhem were wrought by rioters emerged on Tuesday, including the brutal attack that ultimately killed a Capitol police officer. And as lawmakers were briefed about threats of more attacks on the Capitol, rank-and-file Republican lawmakers grew angrier about the president's role in the violence. So, and of course, that's where we got the title card from this particular show. On Twitter, Ignacio tweets, "Thanks for playing, Don." And as I said at the top of the show, this is basically Turtle Man getting up because he did get voted in large part. And Elaine and I talked about it on Monday. I talked about it yesterday. He's standing up there and saying, "Well, thank you, MAGA people, for your votes. Now I'm going to go impeach the MAGA-in-chief. Give me more money, please." So, we'll see what happens with that. Let's keep going. From the New York Post, Nancy Pelosi names impeachment managers, including Eric Swalwell from Stephen Nelson. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Tuesday named 9 managers who will lead President Trump's second impeachment, including Representative Eric Swalwell, who faced recent controversy for his relationship with a Chinese spy that nobody else in the mainstream media is talking about. The House on Wednesday will begin impeachment proceedings against Trump for allegedly inciting last week's Capitol riot. The impeachment is expected to pass with overwhelming Democratic support and at least 3 Republican votes. Impeachment managers are in charge of presenting the charges, giving them significant public attention, and associating their own credibility with the case. They are particularly prominent during Senate trials. Pelosi's selection of Swalwell is a bold affirmation of the embattled House Intelligence Committee member who has refused to say if he was romantically involved with the Chinese spy Fang Fang. The FBI warned him about Fang in 2015 during his first year in the House Intelligence Committee. And that has got to be the most Swalwell statement that's out there. Take it for what you will. But a Chinese spy who is banging everybody else she's trying to get intelligence out of, there's a possibility that Swalwell didn't bang her. So all he did was simp after her instead. Good job, Swalwell. Swalwell's father and brother remained active Facebook friends with the suspected spy until last month when her operation was publicly reported. Representative Jamie Raskin will serve as the lead impeachment manager. The former American University law professor is known for his even keel and will assume the role held by the more divisive Representative Adam Schiff during Trump's first impeachment. Raskin's son Tommy died by suicide on December 31st, and he has received frequent bipartisan expressions of sympathy in recent hearings. Yeah, that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on here, except to make you feel like you can't criticize him for what he's about to do. So, Swalwell's going to be in on this. He's going to face no repercussions for espionage, but once again, you know full well that if this was a Republican member of the House, if this was Kevin McCarthy himself, this would be at the top of every news media outlet, and House leadership would be calling on Kevin McCarthy to be forced out of his committees, if not resign outright. So, we will see what happens from that. It'll be an interesting last week of the presidency. From Fox News, Pence uses Pelosi's own words to justify not invoking the 25th Amendment. From Caitlin McFall. Vice President Mike Pence told Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi that he will not invoke the 25th Amendment as lawmakers flooded into the House chamber for a vote on Tuesday night on a resolution calling for him to do so. Last week, I did not yield pressure to exert power beyond my constitutional authority to determine the outcome of the election, Pence said to the Speaker in an evening letter, and I will not now yield the efforts to the House of Representatives to play political games at a time so serious in the life of our nation. Pelosi has been vocal in leading House Democrats who believe President Trump needs to be held accountable for actions that he had nothing to do with, that she believes led to the deadly Capitol riots last week. Fox News obtained a copy of the letter to the Speaker invoking the 25th Amendment would remove Trump, who has just 8 days left of his term from office. Just a few months ago, you introduced a legislation to create a 25th Amendment commission. You said a president's fitness for office must be determined by science and facts, Pence wrote. You said that we must be very respectful of not making a judgment on the basis of a comment or behavior that we don't like, but based on a medical decision. Madam Speaker, you were right, the Vice President added. Pence urged her to reconsider, pushing forward with actions that he believes would further divide and inflame the passions of the moment. So, got a slow clap on that one, because even after he turned his back on everybody else, Pence is still bold enough to do this to Nancy Pelosi. And we need to do more of this to Nancy Pelosi. Let's keep going from the Daily Wire. Democrats considering blackballing Republican legislators who voted against certifying Biden win, from Emily Zanotti. A group of Democrats, led by the respectful and wonderful Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, is reportedly looking to blackball select Republican legislators who voted against certifying President-elect Joe Biden's Electoral College win, removing their names from pending litigation and blocking their future bills. Politico reports that Democrats are eager to make the GOP colleagues pay for challenges President-elect Joe Biden's 2020 win. Yeah, this is religious at this point. And they plan to keep any legislation co-sponsored by any anti-certification Republicans from seeing the light of day and potentially remove the names of those Republicans from bill reintroductions. Unfortunately for Ocasio-Cortez and Mark Takano, who apparently cooked up the idea, Democratic leadership isn't likely going to go along with the plan, given that a full 130 House Republicans objected at some point to certifying at least one state's Electoral College results. A number that Politico points out is the most of the House Republican caucus, and many of those Republicans are votes President-elect Joe Biden will need to pass trickier elements of his agenda. Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, was one of the 130, as were 10 members of the powerful House and Energy and Commerce Committee, which handles a huge swath of legislation that moves through the chamber, and at least one member of the Health Subcommittee whose help could be needed on any legislation having to do with the coronavirus pandemic. That doesn't matter to these people. They're showing their hand at this point. It's all about one-party rule. And it has been, especially among liberal millennials. They've been talking about one-party rule since I was a liberal millennial, back in the early 2000s. No more Republicans ever, for any reason whatsoever. No more. It's done. I remember chanting with that back, well, can you blame me, really, honestly? With that fucking war criminal George W. Bush and the fucking war criminal John McCain coming up in his under his wings, and the fucking war criminal to be Mitt Romney coming up after him. If it wasn't for Barack Obama, I'd probably still be saying no more GOP ever. But Barack Obama was somehow even possibly worse, and even still more of a war criminal. They're all war criminals at this point, and a lot of that is going to be happening once again, because, once again, as I've mentioned before, Joe Biden has never met a military action that he didn't like. So we'll be seeing coming from that. But they do want a one-party rule. They don't want to have elections anymore, except to just have, just be something to make the people feel like they're choosing the right party. But this is going on to communist Russia rule. And that's why whenever I say the party, talking about the Democrat Party over on Twitter, I always capitalize the T and the P. Because it's going to become a religious... you saw what they consider the Capitol be. It's a religious institution at this point. These people are making this into a religion. And I would call them fucking cultists, except for the fact that the MAGA people are doing the same thing and pushing this into a religious doctrine. Donald Trump is a C- president. He is not the Messiah. He's not the devil incarnate. He's a president that didn't get us into any new wars, got a bunch of his promises kept, failed at a bunch of his promises, and spent us into oblivion. That's what he is. And he couldn't shut up on Twitter. But people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are going to use the media as their propaganda arm to try and eliminate any opposition that they see going forward. Let's keep going. From WESH2, Lawmaker calls on Florida to dump tech stocks after Trump blocked on social media. From Greg Fox. A Central Florida lawmaker is calling on the state to boycott social media companies after Twitter permanently shut down President Trump's account. The account was shut down in the wake of last week's Washington, D.C. riots. They're dividing and divisive, and they're showing something that I've been predicting for a long time, Trump said. Representative Randy Fine of Palm Bay called the move to shut down the president's account censorship. Yeah, it probably is. But it's a private company, okay? This is dangerous, and when half the country can't speak with their words, they're going to end up speaking in other ways, Fine said. The Republican Florida House member wants the state to stop doing business with and sell all stock in certain big tech companies. Why does the state have stock in Twitter? Why does the state have any stock at all? That's something that needs to be looked into, because I would call that a conflict of interest. He sent a letter to the governor and the cabinet asking for the immediate divestment of any Florida-held equity and debt of the following companies: Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, Apple, and Alphabet, Google's parent company. He posted a letter on his Facebook page. What happens if some very conservative person comes to be in charge of Twitter and shuts down Joe Biden? I wouldn't support that either, Fine said. Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis said via Twitter that it is something we should consider getting this on the next cabinet agenda. Why are you playing the stock market with Florida people's taxes? Dude, what the shit? That's lame. Democrats in the state capitol called the letter from Fine a distraction to draw attention away from the president and the violence in D.C. last week. But we need some kind of distraction here because, the religious fervor that's going in on both sides is going to get somebody killed yet, and there's only 7 days to go. And we're still going to see somebody get killed off of this, most likely. These social media companies stepped forward to take responsibility. They didn't want to be complicit in additional acts of violence and insurrection, Florida House Rep. Carlos Guillermo Smith of Orlando said. Agriculture Commissioner Democrat Nikki Fried called Fine's letter red meat for supporters of the president. Who cares? You're playing the market with people's taxes. I would call that a conflict. Yeah, somebody definitely needs to look into the fact that their taxes are going into the stock market. Oh, there goes the lockup again. Give that a second. Let's see if we drop the signal, which it looks like we might. Nope, we're still on. Dropped a couple frames, but we're still on. All
After
right, let's
Twitter
keep going.
permanently
I got some autoplay going too. Did that go autoplay the whole time and I just completely missed it? Did I try to talk over this news site? I don't know. We'll see. Let's keep going. From Axios. YouTube takes down Trump video, bans new uploads for a week. From Ina Fried. YouTube said Tuesday that it has taken down a newly posted video content from President Trump for violating its policies against inciting violence. In addition, it has assessed a strike against the account, which means the president can't upload new videos or live stream to the account for a minimum of 7 days. What happens in 7 days? Do we remember? Do we remember what happens in 7 days? YouTube has been under pressure to take action after Twitter permanently suspended Trump's account and Facebook instituted a 2-week ban. After careful review and in light of concerns about the ongoing potential for violence, we removed new content uploaded to the Donald J. Trump channel and issued a strike for violating our policies for inciting violence, YouTube said in a statement to Axios. As a result, in accordance with our long-standing strike system, the channel is now prevented from uploading new videos or live streams for a minimum of 7 days, which may be extended. YouTube is also suspending comments throughout Trump's channel, citing the risk of violence. It has limited comments on other accounts in the past, but typically for child safety issues. Yeah, I would not be surprised to come back and find out that I've got comments disabled and live chat disabled for most of my YouTube videos. I know it was shut down on Steven's live stream for a long time. It's been shut down on others of his live streams. I know they'll go through and they'll shut down my live chat after the fact, so I can't go back through and review it because you guys are apparently too spicy. And I mean, you guys are pretty mild from what because I go back and read your live chat every day. You guys are pretty mild, but I guess you're too spicy for Susan WikiWiki. Between the lines, YouTube would not identify the offending video. Of course they wouldn't. Why would they? They don't need to have a reason. They just need to pretend that they have a reason. So, the president is off YouTube at this point. All right, let's keep going. I promised to get to this yesterday, and then I completely fell flat on it because we had so much stuff happen over the weekend that I had to catch up on. But Seawall put this up in the Discord. I wanted to talk about this on Monday on the Red Net Show too, but I didn't get around to it because we had such a packed show there as well. But North Idaho internet provider blocks Facebook and Twitter. This is coming out of Spokane, but yes, we have an author, Sarah Roth and Helen Smith. A North Idaho internet provider, your T1 Wi-Fi, confirmed it is blocking Facebook and Twitter from its Wi-Fi service for some customers due to censorship claims. Your T1 Wi-Fi provides internet services to North Idaho and the Spokane area. The move comes after Twitter and Facebook banned President Trump from their platforms due to incitement of violence and undermining the transition of power to President-elect Joe Biden. And this is, and I mean, right there, the actions of your T1 Wi-Fi, which provides the internet services to North Idaho and the Spokane area, could violate Washington State's net neutrality law, which is absolutely 100% correct on this. Now, I like the idea. I do. Because you do have to hold some of these companies accountable for going wild and sidestepping the First Amendment by being billion-dollar companies and doing the government will, essentially. Doing what the government can't because of the First Amendment is what these companies are doing. However, and I got to stay on principle with this, this is a dangerous tactic here. Number one, this is going to push Joe Biden's advisors because Joe Biden doesn't know what the net is or net neutrality. But this is going to push his advisors to come on and say, hey, no, we got to put net neutrality back in because this company is censoring. And I don't like, number two, another million-dollar company censoring what its customers can and cannot imbibe. I like the spirit of it, don't get me wrong. I like the idea that somebody's trying to step in and act on the behalf of people who are denied access to the president and the government due to the fact that a billion-dollar company wants to censor them and then censor their rivals off the internet. I like the idea, but I think it sets a dangerous precedent, and really, the customer should be able to decide what websites they want to go to, not the company providing the internet. I like the idea, but I know where it goes, essentially. So, we will see what happens with that. Let's keep going. From CNN Business, this is the story that Bloombutt wanted a bunch more money for. That's Ron's favorite dude, by the way, Bloomberg. They hang out. Ron and Mike Bloomberg, arm in arm, like that. They love each other. But we got this one here from CNN instead. Deutsche Bank won't do any more business with Trump, from Charles Riley and Matt Egan. Deutsche Bank will no longer do business with President Trump, a move that will cut off his business from a major source of loans that once helped fund his golf courses and hotels. Well, with the PGA pulling out of his golf courses, that's actually, as much as MAGA is going to try to turn this into trying to unperson it, and I do understand the idea of unpersoning an undesirable person and how dangerous that is, from a purely business stance, that's probably in Deutsche Bank's best interest because one of the major sources of income for Trump golf courses has just pulled out of Trump golf courses. It's wrong, but it's understandable. Germany's biggest bank has decided to refrain from future business with the president and his company. A person familiar with the bank's thinking told CNN Business. The news, first reported by the New York Times, follows last week's deadly riots at the U.S. Capitol. A spokesperson for Deutsche Bank declined to comment to CNN Business, citing a prohibition on discussing potential client relationships. The move is the latest example of corporate backlash against the president after his supporters vandalized the Capitol in a brazen assault that left 5 people dead. And we'll talk about that in a couple slides when we listen to Vanessa Bourbon's video, because she's got her own thoughts on that as well. On Monday, the Signature Bank said it had started closing Trump's personal accounts and called for the president to resign. The U.S. Bank also said it will not do business in the future with any members of Congress who voted to disregard the Electoral College. Unperson them. That is different. Now, with Deutsche Bank, I will come on a purely business standpoint and say, yes, a big part of the income for the Trump golf courses has gone away, so that is a bigger risk to them. But now, what Signature Bank just said, we're just not going to do any business with anybody who had anything to do with those riots. That's unpersoning. Anything to do with the vote or anything else to go along with this, that's unpersoning. That is wrong. And I hope that many more of your customers pull out because of that. Trump has a checking account at Signature Bank, according to a 2019 financial disclosure filed with the U.S. Office of Government Ethics. A revocable trust in the president's name also has a money market account at Signature Bank, according to the filing. Trump also has ties to other major banks. The company, our president held between $5 million and $25 million in checking and savings accounts at Capital One, between $500,000 and $1 million in accounts at J.P. Morgan Chase, according to the disclosure form. Yeah, I'm sure if you have $1 billion in investments, which is not $1 billion in cash, by the way, but I'm sure if you've got billions of dollars in investments around the world, you probably have your money in more than one bank. So, thank you to Deutsche. Let's keep going. From Fox News, Trump says, "I kept my promises," as he marks 450 miles of border wall amid riot fallout in D.C. From Adam Shaw. President Trump declared, "I kept my promises," on Tuesday regarding his pledge to build a wall at the southern border. His statement was made to mark 450 miles of construction along the border, as his administration continues to handle damage control because of the fallout from the riot at the Capitol last week. For years, politicians ran for office promising to secure the border, only to get elected and do the absolute exact opposite. They even promised a wall, he said in Alamo, Texas, where he signed a plaque on the wall. "But unlike those who came before me, I kept my promises, okay? Today, we celebrate an extraordinary milestone. It is the best milestone, the greatest milestone. Nobody has milestones like me, okay? The completion of the promised 450 miles of border wall," he said. Well, to be fair, he promised a wall from sea to shining sea. But we didn't see that one. But he did go through and add upgraded existing portions of the wall and the border fencing, upgraded that so that it is secure. And he did add 450 miles of new wall. I'm going to call that one a half and half. I'll call that, I'll give credit where credit's due. I'll call that one a half and half. Trump had promised that his administration would build 450 miles of wall by the end of 2020, and last week officials announced that had been achieved. Additionally, there are more than 300 miles under construction or pre-construction that are suddenly going to lose their money. "Oh, no, we can't afford this. Hey, let's go bomb some more brown people." It's a remarkable shift in construction from last year, where only 100 miles had been built by January of 2020. Critics have noted that much of the construction replaces a structure that was always there, but officials have said there's no comparison between the old landing mat-style structure that could easily be climbed or pushed over and the new 30-foot steel bollards that are made with anti-climb technology, cameras, lighting, and roads. Lightning from the wall, though, that would be an interesting defense measure. Probably would violate a few Interpol regulations, but that would be an interesting defense structure nonetheless. So yes, he did get at least part of that promise going on. I'll give him the W on that one. All right, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, PBS employee out after comments on re-education camps for Trump supporters, removal of kids, revealed in Project Veritas video. from Amanda Prestigiacomo. Government-subsidized broadcaster PBS released a statement Tuesday in reaction to an explosive video from James O'Keefe's Project Veritas that featured an employee advocating for Trump supporters to be sent to re-education camps and the forcible removal of their children by the government. This employee no longer works for PBS, the statement announced. As a mid-level staff attorney, he did not speak on behalf of our organization, nor did he make any editorial decisions. I didn't see the video, but I mean, they've been talking about re-education camps for a while, so a lot of this might have been just monkey see, monkey do. You know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has talked about camp for Trump supporters. Various other Democrats in the House, various other Democrats on Twitter have been called to send some of us into certain camps where we learn how to concentrate or be re-educated. Some of them have even said, some top-level Democrats have even said, how do you undo the brainwashing of Trump supporters for 4 years? And this is some dangerous territory. They're just pissed because Trump supporters are repopulating the planet faster than these little millennials, people my age, who, unlike their parents who had 4 to 6 kids at this time, have 3 abortions and a dog. So, we will see what goes off from there. Let's check out the video that my friend Vanessa Bourbon put up. We're going to do this at 1.5 speed for time. A little bit of introduction that she had here. This looks suspicious AF. Don't fall for this again, Trump supporters. More on this from me here. But she got this banner that she put up here. When democracy is destroyed, refuse to be silenced. Armed march on the Capitol Hill and all state capitals. Yeah, I'm not going. And I've advocated for this numerous times. In the wake of Kamala coming into the presidency, you should all be very well armed with enough armaments to defend your property, your family, against a mid-level attack force. Just in case the government decides to be stupid and bring the fight to you. Because we've seen what happens in Afghanistan and Vietnam when the U.S. government tries to bring the fight to people who are very interested in defending their homes. The U.S. government cannot hold their position against insurgents with semi-automatic rifles in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, various places like that. But for you to bring the fight to the government is suicide. It is absolutely suicide. Defend your home, don't bring your fight to them. Because they know the terrain, they have the fun technology, and they're not afraid to bring their fun technology onto federal grounds. Do not bring the fight to them. If the government wants a fight, let them bring it to you. Because you know your terrain, your town, your property. And they're not going to send an M1 Abrams to your front door. They're going to send a guy in a Ford Explorer with a 9mm on his hip. Actually, it's probably going to be more like a 10mm 40 cal. A guy in a suit with a 40 cal on his hip is the one that's going to come to your door. So let them bring the fight to you if they need to bring the fight somewhere. All right, let's have a listen to this video, though. At 1.5 speed for time.
Hey everyone, just wanted to post a really quick off-the-cuff video. I don't even have my mic with me, so I'm hoping that this sounds okay. But I am here safely tucked away on my mountain, and I feel for all of you that are in cities right now. And I really hope that you guys will take heed to some of the other videos I've posted about getting out of cities. It is very clear that it is open season on the right, and you need to get away from the people that are gunning for you, and the left is gunning for us. The whole point of this video, though, I really believe deep down that last Wednesday's Capitol riot was a setup. It was a setup by the left to goad the right into violent action, because up until now, the right has always had the argument of having higher ground, of being the moral side of the argument and being the nonviolent side of the argument, and we lost that. We lost the high ground that we had, and that was purposeful. And I'm sorry that I'm jittering right now, but I've got a crying baby here in a little papoose, and so we're going to rock, and you guys are going to rock with me, and we're going to hope that he stays quiet long enough for me to vent about this for a few minutes. But that was a setup if I've ever seen it, and I see all these Trump supporters, I see all these people on the right trying to say that Antifa started it and it was all Antifa and BLM and Trump supporters are totally innocent. And to me, that is just either, being willfully ignorant or blind or naive. You can watch that footage. It wasn't just Antifa. And while I do believe that there were probably a lot of Antifa out there dressed as Trump supporters, it wasn't all of them. There were hundreds of people that stormed that Capitol. It wasn't just Antifa. So we have to acknowledge the fact that we really screwed ourselves this time. And people took the bait. They decided to act violently, and we lost whatever, moral high ground that we had. And so now the left is using our actions, even though like this is what makes me so angry, is that the media and the left have been justifying violent action for the last year. They've been supporting it. They've been, championing it. And, I always knew, like, the minute that the right decided to adopt their tactics, they were going to switch it up like they always do, like the hypocrites they are, and they were going to turn around and use that one violent reaction that we have to completely stomp us out. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I really wish that the right at that rally last Wednesday had the foresight to realize that. And I know a lot of people did. You can see it on video. There's a lot of Trump supporters that are stopping, trying to stop the violence, trying to stop the destruction. But they were outnumbered by people who had very hot tempers and, had let their anger get the best of them. And they reacted violently. And I don't blame them for doing that. I totally get it. I understand it. But it was foolish. And now we're all going to pay the price. And you look at Twitter right now, there are tens of thousands of people losing their accounts. Those people are trying to go over to Gab and Parler, and now Parler is going to be getting taken down. It is open season on conservatives right now. So, please be very careful out there. And I think I'm going to be posting to BitChute a lot more often. It's easier to do from up here on the mountain. Trying to post to YouTube, I have to go to the library in town to get everything situated. BitChute's just so much easier to do from here on my phone. So, start, if you don't subscribe to me on BitChute, there's a link in the description below. I'm going to have more content there. And that's a safer place where we can actually, be ourselves and be more open and not talk in riddles and, not try to skirt around issues. So, be careful out there. And I know in my past videos, I've urged people to get out of the cities, but I can't express that enough right now. Get out of leftist cities. They are coming for all of us. And whether that's online or in person, we're seeing, I just saw today, a lot of people on the left are doxing their own family members. They're finding out that family went to the rally and they're alerting the FBI. So be very careful, and be careful who you talk to. Be careful, what you're doing right now on the main social media channels, and just, take care of each other and reach out, build communities where you can, but be safe. All right. Take care, everyone. Hey.
All right. Anyway, going back into that, and now that I've got the audio on, now I've got to try and remember what I said off the cuff here just a sec. So that was my friend, Vanessa Bourbon. And she's absolutely right on a couple points. And I talked a bit about this when I talked to Elaine on Monday night when we were having the conversation. I don't believe that everybody who stormed the Capitol was Antifa. I know that there are a lot of people on the MAGA crowd that believe that everybody who went into that Capitol was Antifa. I don't think that they were. I know Elaine has pointed out that the Buffalo dude was a staunch Trump supporter. I've heard so many arguments on both sides of that. I would need to actually go sit down with the Buffalo dude and interview him to know for sure, because I can't tell for sure which he was. But regardless, it wouldn't take an entire cell of Antifa to go storm the Capitol and make them look like Trump supporters. It definitely wouldn't take an entire cell of them. It would take 2 or 3 charismatic people in front of a crowd of people whose tempers were high, because, as we said on Monday night, a person is smart, but people are really dumb. So one or two of them come up in the midst of everybody's tempers being high, come out and say, "Hey, let's go storm that Capitol, eh?" And bust down the door. Then all of a sudden the idea spreads, and it spreads faster than the fucking coronavirus. And it's jumping from person to person, boop, 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 and all of a sudden they're in a herd and they're all in the Capitol. Could it be a setup? It's possible. It definitely is. And Vanessa makes her case very eloquently, in spite of the fact she's shivering and she's got her baby with her. She makes her case very eloquently, and it's definitely worth a second look. So thank you for that. Let's keep going. From the Hill, Pompeo warns Iran is new home base for Al-Qaeda. From Laura Kelly. Yeah, this is a guy that's ready to go back to war too. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Tuesday charged Iran with aiding and abetting Al-Qaeda, warning that the partnership poses a grave threat to international security and safety of Americans at home. The secretary made his remarks in a speech at the National Press Club less than a week after the mob attacked the U.S. Capitol as lawmakers were certifying the Electoral College count for the presidential election. Pompeo has condemned the violence by the mob, though he has avoided criticism of President Trump, who was widely been accused of inciting it. The secretary focused on his remarks on laying out the connection between Iran, which the U.S. lists as a state sponsor of terrorism, and Al-Qaeda, the group responsible for the September 11, 2001 attacks, and the former boogeyman of neocons and neoliberals everywhere who want to go spend a bunch of money on war because that means that Raytheon will put a bunch of money in their pockets. The previous boogeyman before ISIS became the boogeyman. And now that ISIS is pretty well gone, now they need another fucking boogeyman. So they can go back out and spend all your fucking money and go back to fucking war once again. We're going back to war, folks. Get ready for it. Kiss your kids goodbye if you've got kids around military age, because they're going to be the ones that are coming up for it. And they're going to get all kinds of promises too. Hey, you know how your friends are struggling with student loan payments? Hey, the government will pay for your college. You know, just pick up that rifle. Give us a couple years, and the government will pay for your college. Hey, you guys like video games? You like shooting with drones? Hey, you want to shoot with real drones? Hey, you like Call of Duty, don't you? So, we are going back to war. Thank you, Mike Pompeo, for showing your hand. Oh, goody, I haven't been able to do this in a couple days. I've got one here from NPR, where we'll speak calmly about NPR, because this is how they talk over on that station. Court, says former officer who kneeled on George Floyd's neck to stand trial alone. From Brackton Booker. Remember, they need your money. That state funding that gets taken from you by force isn't enough. Give them a donation, won't you? Donate to NPR. And you can listen to calm content like this. Very quiet. All right. I can't do this for the whole article. A Minnesota judge has ruled that the former Minneapolis police officer seen in cell phone video kneeling on St. George's neck for several minutes last summer will stand trial alone in March. Hennepin County District Judge Peter Cahill ruled that the trial for Derek Chauvin, who is facing charges of second-degree murder and manslaughter for his role in Floyd's death, will begin on March 8th. Cahill cited the ongoing coronavirus pandemic as the reason for trying Chauvin's case separately from 3 other former Minneapolis police officers who were at the scene when Floyd cried out, "I can't breathe! Mama!" Floyd's death on Memorial Day sparked the international protest pushing for an end to police brutality against communities of color and calls for social justice reforms. The other defendants, Alexander Kueng, Thomas Lane, and Tao Thao, will all be tried together. They are facing lesser charges, including aiding and abetting the murder of Floyd. Their trial is scheduled to begin August of 23. The physical limitations of courtroom C-1856, the largest courtroom in the Hennepin County Government Center, make it impossible to comply with COVID-19 physical restrictions in a joint trial involving all 4 defendants, beginning on March 8th of 2021. Given the number of lawyers and support personnel, the parties have now advised the court are expected to be present during the trial. Oh my God, you think we're still going to be going through this on March 8th? Or even worse, August 23rd? Are we still going to be going through this shit? Cahill also sought to take a cautious approach when scheduling the trial of the other officers. He cited issues with the availability of the coronavirus vaccine as a reason to push back several weeks beyond the original start date in June. Yeah, Chauvin's not going to see a day in prison either, but hopefully, by the time his trial goes through and he gets acquitted, because he did everything by the book, the way that he was trained to do, and the full video's gone out as well, even though it wasn't supposed to get out. Hopefully by then they're not trying to unseat a Republican president, so we won't see riots in Minneapolis. BLM only shows up in an election year. So, we will see what happens there. Let's keep going. From the post-millennial, Bruce Willis is apparently based. Bruce Willis asked to leave pharmacy for refusing to wear a mask. From Noah David Alter. Bruce Willis was asked to leave an LA pharmacy on Monday after refusing to wear a mask, Page 6 reports. According to an anonymous patron of the pharmacy, Willis walked into the store without a mask on. He refused to cover his nose and mouth when asked, despite having been wearing a bandana around his neck at the time. Willis, who has not commented on the matter, apparently left the pharmacy without making a purchase. Willis spent most of the pandemic quarantining with his family in their home in Idaho, where he owns several businesses. It is unclear what brought Willis back to LA, which has become the epicenter of the coronavirus in the state of California. Cases of coronavirus have been rapidly rising in California in recent weeks, as the government desperately shuts down the state to try and control the virus. Let's shut it down. Let's get Britt and Harvey back out of there, and Clint, and Rachel. You guys don't know Rachel. I know Rachel. But let's get the cool people out of there, and my cousin too. Let's get him out of there, and his wife. But let's get the cool people up out of there, and let's actually shut California down. Just start laying the bricks all around the border, and shut it down. That's what they want. They want to be shut down, so we'll shut it down. Nobody knows what happened with Willis, why he was there. Like it said, he left without making a purchase, probably because he got hassled for it. But he went in there without a mask. Totally based. All right. Just a couple more, then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head on out of here. From France 24, Iran bans the import of UK and US COVID-19 vaccines, saying they're completely untrustworthy. Text by France 24, no author given. Foreign companies will not be allowed to test COVID-19 vaccines on the Iranian people, President Hassan Rouhani said on Saturday, one day after the country's supreme leader banned the import of UK and US-produced jabs and said they were completely untrustworthy. Foreign companies wanted to give us vaccines so they would be tested on the Iranian people, but the health ministry prevented it, Rouhani said in a televised remark, without naming the companies or giving further details. Our people will not be testing a vaccine for the vaccine manufacturing companies, he added. We shall purchase safe foreign vaccines. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's highest authority, had said on Friday the U.S. and Britain were untrustworthy and possibly sought to spread COVID-19 to other countries. Khamenei tweeted on Friday, importing vaccines made for the U.S. or the UK, made in the U.S. or the UK is prohibited, accompanied by the hashtag coronavaccine. Twitter removed the tweet and posted a message saying it had violated the platform's rules against misinformation. Khamenei's edict bans the imports of the BioNTech, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Oxford anti-COVID-19 jabs. Responding to the Supreme Leader's move, the World Health Organization's emergencies dictator, Michael Ryan, stressed that the world body had made repeated calls to not politicize the virus. Iran has reported more than 1.2 million cases of the novel coronavirus. It's been a year, it's not novel anymore, which have caused over 56,000 deaths. It has accused archenemy the U.S. of hampering access to the vaccines through a tough sanctions regime. Yeah, but they don't want them. I'm getting some mixed messages here, dude. But, it doesn't matter. Let them think what they want to think. Rouhani doesn't care about his own people anyway. He just wants to have the power. So, we will see how CNN tries to twist this into being somehow Trump's fault. All right, just a couple more here, then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head out here. CPS is cutting off pay and teaching access from absent staff. The CTU says that's cruel and illegal. From Sarah Karp. I just looked down at the clock. This is the fastest we've ever gone through a 26-page contemporary. We might get under an hour here. No, we're over an hour already. How did we get over an hour already? All right, anyway, let's finish this off. I know you guys got to get to work. I got to get to work. Do I have an author here? Sarah Karp. Yes, I do. As Chicago Public Schools leaders welcomed the first small group of students into classrooms on Monday, they also announced about 18% of teachers and staff who were required to return failed to do so, and that starting Tuesday, some of them will lose pay and be cut off from their virtual classrooms. On Tuesday, 145 staff are far enough in the discipline process to be considered absent without leave and will face these harsh consequences. Unless the school district's position changes, that is likely just the beginning. A quarter of staff required didn't, according to the school district. Of those 915 teachers and staff, 678 didn't have an excuse for not swiping in. According to CPS, the rest failed the health screener and were excused. The teachers' union is incensed, calling all these actions cruel and illegal. They also said there's already at least one outbreak in schools that reopened. Jenny Delesio Parson from McCutcheon Elementary said she was informed Sunday evening that a colleague tested positive and several staff members are quarantining. She said it was a chaotic first day. But this move also heightens the pressure for both the union and the school district to come to an agreement over reopening. The school district needs to have staff in classrooms as it moves forward with plans to bring thousands more students into school. Some 70,000 elementary school students are expected to return in person on February 1st. Well, this is where I have to say, and some of this does come to voluntary action. Number one, if you don't work, you don't get paid, and the union shouldn't be able to do something about that. It's fine if you want to voluntarily not go into class. Find a substitute, have the substitute pool come in, or have the district do something to try and figure you out. But if you are putting them in that position at the last minute, you don't get paid. That's just the way that it is. You don't work, you don't get paid. I don't work, I don't get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. I have to go into my job every day, and I have since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. I've missed, with the exception of my scheduled vacation, one day since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, and that was because I went down to Kenosha to make sure that my family was all still alive, because they were burning that down and they were getting dangerously close to my godmother's house. Everybody else was far away from it. They were getting dangerously close to my godmother's house, so I had to go down there. That's the only day that I have missed, non-scheduled, since the beginning of the scamdemic that we have here. So yeah, if you're refusing to go to work, that's fine. And the union should have things in place to keep you from getting fired for this, because the media has been telling you that this is the end of the world, and if you step 6 inches outside of your house, you will contract coronavirus, you'll have to go get tested, and as soon as you get tested, the nearest phone to you will ring, and there will be a whispered voice on the other end that says, 7 days. That's what the media has been telling you. So I understand why you don't want to go. And the union should have measures in place to keep you from getting canned for it. But, once again, you don't work, no pay. And you figure it out. And I bet you there are a bunch of other people who are qualified that would love to have your position right now, with more and more people unemployed at this point. There are a bunch of other people who would be willing to take the risk if you don't want to get your ass out of bed and go work. All right. And that is that. All right, I got just a couple more here. One tweet and then the story that goes along with it here. The tweet is from Razorfist. Damn! Now, if I want to be browbeaten by boomer propaganda, I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way, by attending a university. Because Jeff Zucker has notified CNN staff that the CNN airport network will end operations as of March 31st. Their reasoning, and we'll read the article here, the steep decline in airport traffic because of COVID-19, coupled with all the new ways that people are consuming content on their personal devices, has lessened the need. So they're not going to be piping CNN into the airports anymore. All right, from Fox News, which is ironic that I get to read this from Fox News, who is supposed to be CNN's competitor, even though they've swallowed the fucking blue pill harder than CNN has. CNN announces it is pulling network from airports. Twitter rejoices. From Joseph A. Wolf's own. CNN announced Tuesday that it would pull the plug on its longest-running airport network, causing jubilation among many of the network's critics on social media. Network president Jeff Zucker announced the CNN Airport Network will officially end on March 31st, citing a deep decline in airport traffic because of COVID-19, coupled with all the new ways people are consuming content on their personal devices. Having to say goodbye to such a beloved brand is not easy, Zucker wrote. I want to thank our friends and colleagues who have contributed to its success and to celebrate the fact that for 30 years, the CNN Airport Network has kept millions of domestic travelers indoctrinated. I'm sorry, that says informed, not indoctrinated. It has also become an iconic part of the traveling experience in this country. For years, CNN critics mocked the anti-Trump network for heavily relying on airport travelers for its viewership, which had curated for much of the Trump presidency. Best news ever, Newsbusters managing editor Curtis Weck declared on Twitter. What the fuck, I love COVID now, Spectator USA editor Amber Athey joked. 2021 is looking up already, Daily Wire senior editor Emily Zanotti wrote. CNN has just forfeited 95% of its viewership, conservative commentator Matt Walsh quipped. Well, yeah, they won't be in there anymore. Not in the airport anymore, because nobody's going to the fucking airport. I wonder what they're going to put in its place. Here's what they should do. We should get a continuous loop of Freedom Scoop programming and pipe that into the airport. That's what we should do. I'm thinking, somebody get Jake on the line. We got to figure out how to get this happen. Send that to the airports. Let the people come into this country see some real news at the beginning. All right, and that is it for the day. As far as news goes, and the last thing we do on Wednesday is something that I am thankful for. And honestly, it's getting harder to do these positive ones. The more and more we go into this and the harder this reality show has been going with us, it does get a little bit harder and harder to do. I could not do something that restored my faith in humanity on Monday because I was so fucking black-pilled on Monday. I couldn't even come up with something. And I'm still very black-pilled, but there's still so much to be thankful for. I'm going to, I don't know if this is a breach of etiquette or not, but I'm going to relay a paraphrase of a conversation that happened off mic with my co-host. Now, there's a lot of private detail in there that I'm not going to be extending to you guys, obviously. Elaine is quickly becoming one of my best friends in the world, so there's a level of confidence to us. But with what she has there, what I'm thankful for with some of the stuff that she said to me off mic afterwards is the crew that I've been able to round up for Freedom Scoop. Now, Freedom Scoop has been having problems. I've been trying to get with the tech lady at some point here to try and get some of this fixed. We're not auto-uploading videos. We do have to update channels for some of our creators because Stephen Ignoramus is, for the most part, not streaming on his main channel anymore. The R-Rated Conservatives main channel is banned. It's not picking up Generational Gap anymore, but these people still stick with me. Robert still has the ice cream cone at the beginning of his introduction. The R-Rated Conservative still has our site on his website. Stephen shouted out the website to 40,000 people watching at once, and we crashed the website. I have a lot of people that are working very hard to try and get this going and moving because I've got this major dream of putting the Daily Wire out of business. Is it way too ambitious? Probably. Coming from a complete startup going against a Jewish lawyer, it's probably way too ambitious, but that's what I want to see. And I'm very thankful that I've got a group of people who are willing to try and take this forward with me, who want to see something go to try and help make everybody else famous. I mean, Steven shouts me out every time I get into his live chat, and so does the RRC. Every time I watch the RRC, I get at least one new sub over on D Live. Not just go on the show, but every time I watch it, he says, "Hey, go follow J. Edgar over there." And at least one person follows me over on D Live. So the crew that came forward, I mean, opportunity, meeting preparedness was a lot of this. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I met all these people. Steven, Britt, Freckled Liberty. The two of them coming together. Just the fact that Freckled Liberty is on a Freedom Scoop Network show is amazing to me. Somebody who had that much of a Twitter presence before coming onto our network is amazing to me. Wyatt Birkenhoff and Anna Voltis and their two shows that come together. Stephen Ignoramus, the charismatic guy who is trying to push us and propel us forward to try and make sure that all of us get huge ratings coming up off this. The generational gap. And Elaine herself, who just came in at the tail end, who was just supposed to be an interview on Ed's World, who wound up being the perfect fit to sit on the other side of the screen. I have the greatest crew in the history of media networks. And now I need to either get access to the website itself or access to the lady who runs the website so I can give them a proper website to peddle their wares. So I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful that you came together, and I'm thankful for all the work you've done for the Freedom Scoop Network. And that is going to be it for the day here. So thanks everybody who came and chatted. Once again, make sure that if you were just lurking, you get at least one message in the chat so I can thank you properly on Friday, because I'm always thankful for you guys too, and I want to do so in a proper manner. So make sure every time you lurk, I can't thank you. Get at least one message into the chat so I can say thank you for that. And we'll be back here tomorrow for more contemporary. Make sure you check out the Generational Gap tonight on their Shooting the Shit episode. I will be there in the chat while I'm making myself some fish for dinner tonight. So hope to see you guys there. Hope to bullshit with you guys while you're in there. Otherwise, we'll be back here in the morning for more contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.